Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, July 29th, 2024. I am Dave Biddle. I am very happy joined by Dan Rubin for our long Monday tradition where we're always coming at you on Mondays. Maybe not that long of a tradition, but about almost a year now. Dan and I have been doing this every Monday, and I think we're going to continue doing it. What do you think, Dan?
I tell you, Mondays during the season are a lot more fun usually, so I really look forward to those. But no, Monday's the best. Sum up the weekend, get rolling, set the stage for the week, and it is a big week.
It is a very big week with camp kicking off Thursday. Buckeyes coming off media days last week. We're going to talk about David Sanders Jr., what's going to happen with him. Why didn't Ohio State have some type of Friday Night Lights event this year, or a barbecue, any type of event to bring a bunch of top recruits in? I think I know the answer. We've had people ask about that. We're going to get into all that. We're also going to welcome in our sponsor, Manscaped. Love Manscaped, and it's been really cool. I remember it's just been really cool seeing them blow up as it's such a huge and successful company. I remember watching them on Shark Tank several years ago when they pitched it, and I'm thinking, man, that's a pretty good idea, And I bet they have a good chance of making it. Oh boy, did they have a good chance of making it. Sizzle alert this summer: let the only thing smoking at your barbecue be the grill, not your grooming game. Get ready for the ultimate cookout season with Manscaped. Whether you're flipping burgers or cannonballing into the pool, make sure your meat looks neat. With the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra, fire up your grooming routine and keep it cool with Manscaped. Head to manscaped.com, use code Bucknuts for 20% off and free shipping. Let's make this summer sizzle for all the right reasons. See, if I was trying to pitch that on Shark Tank, I would have been stumbling all over my words, and who knows? But the product's so good, it probably still would have been okay. But yeah, the product's good. They had a great pitch. I remember thinking, ooh, they're going to make it, and then they did. So get 20% off and free shipping with code Bucknuts at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code Bucknuts. Manscaped, the perfect way to get your patties sizzling hot this season. All right, let's start with David Sanders. I'm interested in – I want to talk about the why no Friday Night Lights this year, because that was always so fruitful for Urban Meyer, Mark Pantoni, and Mark Pantoni's obviously still here. David Sanders obviously visited Nebraska and Tennessee over the weekend, did not visit Ohio State. And a lot of people are, more on the, as you like to say, Dan, more on the nuts side on that one. They're not on the rational observer side. Definitely more buck nuts. Where are you at on that? Just what are some of your vibes on David Sanders?
I'd be lying if I said I've ever had a big vibe on this one from the very start. There are some guys I do, some guys I don't. I do think it's interesting when you break down the final three teams for the number one, offensive lineman, and it's Ohio State, Nebraska, and Tennessee. That's not the general trio we tend to spar with these days, or the duo, if I was going to say that. That said, I'm confident. I know that we've known for quite some time that this would not be a NIL issue. I think there are certain guys, David Sanders absolutely is one, who are, if we were going to do the pro analogy, would be your franchise players. They're going to get plenty of dough, plenty of incentive. It's just a matter of who he chooses. And I've yet to hear anyone make a argument for Ohio State or Tennessee that would make me tip the scales in either favor, other than I think Ohio State's just a better option for a football player. That said, if you're the best player at Tennessee on the offensive line, you have the potential to be a top 5 draft pick. That's not being, we've seen that in the past. So if I had to put a percentage on it, let's go with 50.5%. I do, but I would say it's more hope than belief.
Yeah, I was at 60%, as recently as last week. I'm with you. I'll give the Buckeyes a slight edge. I'll just tail you there. I'll say 50.5. I'll give them a little hair over 50%. But yeah, I can't say that I'm I can't say I'm ultra confident about it. But hopefully they can get this done. We're going to talk more about Justin Fry later in the show. You hear all the time, Ryan Day, make or break year for Ryan Day. True. I can't think of a coach that's more of a make or break year than Justin Fry. you don't land Dan. If you don't land David Sanders, you better have a really good offensive line this year, or at least a good. That can't be the reason that Ohio State doesn't achieve their goals this year is the offensive line. Ryan Day said that at media days. The offensive line will make or break our season. We'll get into that later too. So Justin Fry, David Sanders is huge. His biggest job this year, though, is to get that offensive line playing at a national championship level. If he misses out on David Sanders, Buckeyes win the national title, offensive line's playing well, all will be good in Columbus, Ohio, and all around Buckeye Nation. All right. I'm curious about this. I think this is a fun topic or an interesting topic. It's not really fun. Friday Night Lights was always a cool event to cover, and it was very fruitful for Ohio State, as I said in the intro. And they didn't do it this year. And people are like, what the heck? Why didn't you do it this year? Or at least do a barbecue. Bring all these guys in like some of these other schools are doing. Somebody asked David Sanders, why didn't you come to Ohio State this weekend too? He said they didn't have any events or anything. Now, I think I know the answer why they didn't do it. Because they are all in on the season this year. That doesn't mean – and they feel like they've shown a lot of love to the recruits that they've targeted. They bring in – they feel like they've recruited David Sanders Jr. very well. And, they think they've targeted certain guys and they've gone after them and they're doing a great job. Number one class in the country. Dan, I think the reason they didn't want to do something this past weekend specifically is because camp is kicking off Thursday. And that means Ryan Day, that doesn't mean Thursday he's going to show up and start coaching. No, he's hunkered down right now. He already was getting his plan together for camp. Probably has been for the last months, few months. So I think it's because they're so all in on the season this year. They know they have to beat Michigan. They don't have to win the national championship, but it'd be nice if they did. They know they have to win big this year, whatever your definition of that is. So that's my take on it. What do you think?
I like that. I hope that's the reason. That's a great reason. If I were to try and suggest other possible reasons, one, recruiting has changed in that I think the kind of guys that Ohio State is recruiting specifically, I think it might be hard to herd all those cats at one time. These guys all have some pretty specific schedules now. We've talked about how you can be compensated for your visits. I think it might be just a little bit more difficult in that respect. The recruiting has become more siloed for each little individual guy because their own little, what has Jay-Z said? I'm not a businessman. I'm a business man kind of thing. Brand development has become so big. So individuality may be part of it. Also, the timing, like you said, is a challenge. It could be just financial. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to get a lot of guys in one spot and then put on the show that Ohio State wants to. We saw what it looks like when they pull out all the stops and want to put on a good show. And that's not the reason they're not doing it. Getting guys on the 50 and into the NetJets Club and, all that good stuff is very convincing. I just think it's a function of the times. I'm not sure, but I don't think a lot of the other programs that we used to compete with are having massive get-togethers either. I think it's just much more difficult to coordinate these days. And like you said, priorities hopefully have weighed out here.
Yeah, it's not like they're like not prioritizing recruiting. And we can see with the class they've put together and hopefully will continue to put together that they've definitely prioritized recruiting. But I think they just didn't want to try and pigeonhole that in this late with the season right around the corner and camp kicking off this week. Because I've heard people say stuff like, well, you could have still done one. Mark Pantoni and his staff could have done it. True. I have no doubt about that they could have put on a great show. But the recruits, if Ryan Day just would have shown up for a little bit or something, you can't do it half-assed. You can't do it. Then it would have been I only got 5 minutes with Ryan Day or whatever it might be or whatever coach. If you're going to do it, you got to go all in. And I think maybe I'm spin doctoring if the number one class in the country. Yeah. I think that's probably why they did not do a Friday Night Lights type of event.
Yeah, the only thing that would work that you would question is that because you don't have to have guys for the class of 2025. Friday Night Lights also got some younger dudes in there who got a taste and wanted to come back. But like you said, I think in this era, if you're not giving guys that specific attention, that could work against you. So getting them all in one spot and getting them into a Love Island situation, no good.
I love that analogy. That's funny. All right, camp kicks off Thursday. Programming note: this is pretty cool because they're not doing the media a favor here. It's because the first 4 days of camp, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, are open to some of the public. Who in the public? The people in the public that want to pay $50 a pop to show up for practice. Hey, you got to raise money for NIL. And people have there have been some complaints, not a lot. Most people get this. There was a thread on Bucknuts. Somebody was like, "Come on, this is a money grab." Now you're making Buckeye fans pay to come to practice. No, they're not making Buckeye fans pay to go to practice. It has been closed, period, for most of the last few years to fans. Last year, they had 2 practices where they opened up where people had to pay like $50, and that went to NIL. This year, they have 4 practices, all open to people who can pay $50 per practice. Where's that money go? NIL. I mean, yeah, we got plenty of big money donors. You still got to raise as much money as you can for this NIL. So that's why the first 4 practices are open to some of the public. And that's why all 4 of the first 4 practices are open to the media.
Thank you very
So
much.
it's going to be crazy. This is going to remind me of my very early days on the beat. I was joking with some of my fellow reporters. Does this mean we're going to get Tressel right on the field after every practice? That's what it's going to remind me of. We used to get Tressel right on the field after every practice in preseason camp. Suffice to say, Dan, they don't do that anymore, and they haven't in a while. And I don't know if we're going to get Ryan Day every day. We probably won't, but it'll be really cool being out there. I don't know how much they're going to allow us to film, maybe only the first half hour, but being out there every day for all 4 of those practices, that'll be cool.
Now, it depends also. I doubt Chip Kelly and Ryan Day are going to pull out their double secret probation playbook for the event. However, this is one of those events that if you're a true nutter and if you're on here at the 12-minute mark, you could still be a mediocre fan. You will enjoy it greatly. You'll see some stuff you've never seen before, and you will look. It is cool to see the guys for the first time running around, to see Caleb Downs covering J.J. Smith and stuff like that. Like, you will remember that. So I just spent the weekend taking my kids to a Major League Baseball, and it was more than $50. Excuse me. So
right, Camden Yards.
That would be money well spent.
Dan took the pilgrimage to Camden Yards. That's a nice one right there. And the Orioles,
in my opinion,
too. Orioles are a damn good team.
Padres gave them hell, though, man. Padres are the hottest team in baseball, so that was fun. But it's a great event. I will say this, 90, and we had good seats, so your boy was overheating a little bit, but it was great. Baseball in the summer was fun, and just to reiterate this, that is $50 to go see a practice. So how long are we out there for? 2 hours? Are they making you pay for parking, Dave? Parking's probably free, I hope.
Probably free because like that they have that massive lot. You have to walk a little bit. It's not that far. That massive parking lot right outside the soccer stadium, the Jesse Owens Stadium, the track and soccer stadium. It's also used as like bad parking for the shot because it's way back in the shot.
Overspill.
The point is, there's a ton of parking there. So yeah, I don't think they're going to make people pay for parking, but who knows?
Good parking is always key.
That's right. That's right. So I want to get back into looking back on media days. I thought it was just some of the things that jumped out to me. Ryan Day, I asked him about offensive line. Very sexy question, right? Everybody wants to know about quarterback, and I asked him about the offensive line first question of the presser. But seriously, I wanted to know about that. I feel like and for him to say, Dan, I'm curious to get your take on this. For him to say the offensive line is going to make or break our season. Like a lot of people look at Ohio State, they're like quarterback, offensive line. If those two can, I hear a lot of people say that when I'm on a guest on other podcasts, people will talk to me about that. It seems like if Ohio State's good at quarterback and offensive line, they're going to be good. Ryan Day said offensive line will make or break our season. That was interesting. I agree with that. He also didn't say anything about quarterback's going to make or break our season. I think now he didn't say Will Howard's the guy. I knew he wouldn't. He didn't tell us Justin Fields was the guy in 2019 at media days when he was competing with Chugginoff and Gunnar Hoke. Okay, he wasn't going to tip his hand with the quarterbacks. But you can always read between the lines with Ryan Day. He didn't say quarterback's a concern. Quarterback's going to make or break our season. He said offensive line's going to make or break our season. I just found that interesting.
I agree. I do think we are experiencing something in sports in general more aggressively than in the past, and that is the recency effect. The last time we saw Ohio State's offensive line, it was not good. It was me getting texts from people in faraway lands being like, generally, WTF. And I had no answer. But so I think that is leaning into this a little bit. They're probably not quite as bad as they looked in that game, and the personnel in that game is really not what you're going to see on the field totally. But I agree with that. That said, Ryan Day is acutely aware that every word you have a hard time turning on any college football media today, not hearing about how much pressure Ryan Day is under, especially the stuff produced outside the state of Ohio. So he knows everything he says is going to be minced and highlighted. He said that on purpose. And so he pretty much laid it out there. Justin Fry, I'm sure, heard. I don't think that's news to Justin Fry. Now, I will say this. I do think Justin Fry and Neil Harris coming in with my point here. I think having Chip Kelly in the mix here has given everybody some confidence behind the scenes.
Yes.
Where you're not maybe hearing it as much, but you're feeling it. I don't think Ryan Day would say that to purposely set up one of his staff members to fail. I think he might be, in other words, kind of maybe reeling us in to where we kick some tail. So I've heard some more experts talk about Chip Kelly and his ability to create space for the offense. I think that's going to help the offensive line so much. And then really, look, I realize we say it's Bucknuts. It's not Buck Rational Observer. But let's just go through the personnel that lined up at Michigan last year. Quarterback was Kyle McCord. Demonte Traynham got a lot of carries. Okay. We were a little nicked in the wide receiver room. Now this year you're coming back, assuming we stay healthy, and that's obviously, Will Howard is a running threat at quarterback. We're talking about the running game here. The running back combination is ridiculous. So, I mean, I'm very confident that stuff will pick up. And then if you have a really good running game, I think that takes so much pressure off the offensive line. It can be pick and choose, pick your poison, and then we go from there.
We're going to go from there in just a little bit, get back to Ohio State football. But I want to tell you guys again about Manscaped. Love these guys. And, I'm wearing a little Manscaped gear here, as you can see today. We Save Balls. This is when they were doing their testicular cancer awareness month. But love Manscaped. And I'm not going to do the same read I just did at the beginning of the show. I'm going to tell you guys about three. They have so many good products. I'm going to tell you about three that I really like. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, the Weed Whacker 2.0 ear and nose hair trimmer, and the Handyman. Handyman right here. First of all, let's talk about the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. It's perfect for achieving that crisp, clean, and confident look for your barbecue and beach days. Then you have the Weed Whacker 2.0 ear and nose hair trimmer. It will keep your ears and nose as tidy as your hedges next door. Pesky hair be gone. Perfect for impressing guests at your summer cookout. You got to get rid of that nose and ear hair, my friends. And then the Handyman, love this. It's a facial trimmer that you can take on the road, or you can just do it at home too, but it's very convenient to take on the road, have in your car, and it's pretty amazing how good this is for an electric facial trimmer. All right, and here's the deal for you guys again. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code Bucknuts at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use code Bucknuts. Manscaped, the perfect way to get your patties sizzling hot this summer. Gotta get those patties sizzling hot, Dan. That's your other famous phrase, I think. It's Buck Nuts, not Buck Rational Observers, and keep those patties sizzling hot. All right.
I've said that so much. Someone said that in the
your famous phrase
in the thread here, and I repeat it. Listen, I don't have a lot of new content here. Okay, let's let the season get going. There you go.
So
Thank
good.
you.
I repeat it all. It's so good. I repeat it all the time when I'm doing shows without you. I give you credit, but people, I probably don't even need you. Everybody knows that that's a D Rube original. D Rubes with the original.
And our people are continually enforcing it, which we appreciate.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great line. It's funny and it's on point. Those are the best lines, right? It's like completely true and funny.
It's the kernel of truth.
It's great. All right, let's get back to Justin Fry.
Yes.
Yeah, first of all, how much is David Sanders really on him? Is this like an NIL thing, or is this like, no, this is on Justin Fry? Certainly some of it's on Justin Fry.
Sure.
I don't think 100% of it is, but still, man, if he gets him, he's going to get credit for it. If he doesn't, he get blasted.
I mean, I think you laid it out perfectly there. It's kind of like when we talk about the kids and we say, he's going back to do this and going back to do that. He wants to go on another visit so he gets more money. These 18-year-old kids are not making the decisions by themselves, going places by themselves, and no one else is part of it. It's a family usually that's involved. There's a group that's involved. It's just like when you're in recruiting. Yes, Justin Fry will be his position coach, and it's a big deal. But excuse me, I would think that he has to have at least some juice to have the boxes checked to get to this point. I mean, if you agree that he's down to Tennessee and Ohio State, and that means theoretically he's down to Tennessee's, Ohio's offensive line coach and Ohio State's offensive line coach. So they got into the gold and silver medal round. Ohio State needs to be the gold medal round if we're going to go Olympic vibe here. But he's done something to get him through there. I don't think this – I mean, people talk about whether it's the medical school and such. I don't know about all that, man. By the time this guy's done with college, he can go to he can go to Harvard Medical School if he wants to. He's going to be going to the NFL for a while. So that one doesn't make as – if that's the determining factor and Ohio State's medical school wins out, bam, that would be one of the cooler ways to win a recruitment ever. But David Sanders' future, I don't think right after college is going to be in the medical field, at least during the season. So I just don't know if that is that huge of a factor to me personally, but I could be wrong. And like Dietrich says, it's a team effort. When you put it this way, when they went to visit David Sanders, it wasn't just Justin Fry. Okay, we talked about how when Naeem offered visited here with 9 family members, we felt good. If you get 4 or 5 staffers at your house on a Tuesday night for dinner, you're doing things right. And I'm sure David Sanders had to put a couple extra seats at the table for Buckeye coaches. So hope is the main word here. But look, they got in the final 2, and you're right about that. This is going to be a crux on Justin Fry. The only thing I can think of is if look, win or lose this recruitment, I'm pretty sure we're still going to play the season. And so, if they go through and the offensive line plays great. Another thing, if every guy on the offensive line shows progress, okay, what you want to see out of your line coaches is every guy who enters the program at one point exits at another higher level, even though they're tremendous prospects. Like Paris Johnson got better when he was here. DeJuan Jones got better when he was here. If these guys all get better, look, if the Armstrong twins get as good as I hope they get, that's a Justin Fry huge double whammy. David Sanders would buy him some time to get to there for sure, but let's just see everyone get better. Let's see the interior of the line get better, and then go from there.
Yeah, look at Justin Fry. Like if I was his professor or something, he was in my class, I'd look at it like he's getting like a C+ right now, but I have a feeling he can ace the final and really bring that grade up. That's where I'm at, because like I look back at 2022, that was his first year here. He hasn't been here that long. He had a really good offensive line. It helps when you have Paris Johnson Jr. And DeJuan Jones was good too. DeJuan Jones should not have fallen to the 4th round. He was starting for the Browns last year.
He again.
He got hurt. Yeah, he wouldn't again. I know he only was starting for the Browns because Conklin got hurt before that. But then after DeJuan got in there, he was playing well. He was starting and playing well. And then you lose Luke Whippler too, right? That threw everything into a loop. And you got a bunch of first-year starters in there. Josh Simmons, technically a second-year starter, but first year at Ohio State. I've also heard people say, well, Justin Fry struggled with development. Can't really give him credit for Paris Johnson. I can get there. But what about Josh Simmons? I thought early in the year he was shaky, and then by the end of the year he was good. And now they're saying he looks really good. So I don't know. I obviously want them to get David Sanders, but like if Justin Fry can have this line playing good, this Ohio State team is going to be a big problem. I do want to get to a question. my buddy Juck on Bucks, says, morning, Bucknutters. Who are we thinking is leading for the right guard spot heading into camp? This is a good one. I asked Coach Day about offensive line, his thoughts overall. And then I said specifically, my follow-up was like, how do you feel about right guard? Who are some of the candidates there? And he went through it. I still think it's going to be Carson Hinsman. But, man, if it's Tegra, I won't be upset about that. Tegra's one of those guys, if the light comes on for him, look out. Straight out of Central Casting. I mean, he just a good young man as well. And now this is his second full year in mix, strength program. Because this first year he didn't get here till June. So he's just coming today. Last year was his first time really going through a college, full year in a college weight program. Now he's had 2 full years. And I think Luke Montgomery's in the mix too. I think it'll be Hinsman, but that's going to be an interesting battle to follow in camp. Good question.
The more I think about it, I'm not sure. I think you might. I'm not sure it's going to get clearly won or clearly decided by play. When you start to mention those guys, I don't really feel there's a huge gap between Hinsman and Tegra and Luke Montgomery now, unless I have to see that. You're talking about shades of gray there at right guard, so you probably need someone in here who's weighed over 250 pounds at some point in their life to break that down. But I think they just need to put the first guy in there and almost not trial by error or trial by fire, but this is not a program that needs to put one guy in there and live and die with him. You put in there who's playing well and go from there. You're right about Tegra and the light. He blocks out the light when you talk to him. He's enormous. He's the nicest kid you'll ever meet. Very soft-spoken dude. The champion of the All the Best Deli Eat-Off, one of his main titles. We don't want that to be the title he emerges from Ohio State with, but I think it'd be great if Tegra was the guy. Carson Hinsman has had an interesting ride here so far, probably got forced into action a year ahead of time. And Dave, I give you credit. You were always on Luke Whippler and how that was going to have an impact and how he wasn't going to get drafted where he probably thought he was going to. That one kind of set them back. Center is a big deal, man, in terms of the flow of the offense and continuity. And when you have a center on your team for 2 or 3 years that's a starter, it's one of the things where you don't notice it because the bad things aren't happening as much. One of those kinds of things. So, look, the interior of the offensive line, center and right guard, actually center, right guard, and right tackle, like you said, are more people will be watching that early on a team with this many good skill players than ever.
This is where I'm excited about the O-line because, if this is the weakness, and Ryan Day said it's going to make or break the season. I've seen a lot of Ohio State O-lines over the years. There's no first-year starters, presuming Tegra or Luke Montgomery doesn't win right guard. There could be a first-year starter. But just going by my projections, I think 4 spots are locked in. I know Coach Day said Seth McLaughlin and Carson were going to play center, and one could play guard. I'm pretty sure Seth McLaughlin's going to be the center. That's from everything I've heard from, behind the scenes. I think that was Coach Day just, speaking publicly. Maybe he wouldn't say the same things privately. I'll put it that way. You look at this offensive line, it's veteran. And I think not just veteran, I think it has, some skill. It's some guys that certainly have not reached their ceilings. Donovan Jackson is a perfect example. If he can, as a third-year starter, as a senior, he can play up to those 5-star accolades, which he is not to this point. That's huge. Left guard. You have Simmons, the aforementioned Josh Simmons at left tackle. And Simmons, again, got better and better and better. Now he's going to be a third-year starter, including his year at San Diego State. Probably his last year. He could come back next year as a fifth-year senior, getting some NFL buzz. So you got Simmons and Jackson on the left side. Center Seth McLaughlin will be a third-year starter at the collegiate level, including his time at Alabama. Pretty good program there they have down there at Alabama. Hinsman, first year at right guard, but if he's a starter, he'll be a second-year starter. Third year in the program because he redshirted a year. And then you have Josh Fryer will be the second-year starter at right tackle, a guy that's getting all kinds of love from Coach Day and his teammates for how much he's busted his ass during the offseason. And he kind of got the kinks out of the way, in theory, last year as a first-year starter. This is the weakness. This is why we're all excited because I don't think the offensive line will be a weakness. My question is, can it be a strength against a team like Michigan? It needs to at least be good. It wasn't anywhere near good against Michigan last year. But can it be good against Penn State, Oregon, Michigan, Iowa? playoffs? That's my question.
There was a drive against Michigan that I enjoyed, the one where Trainum scored in the second half, and I really thought the tide was turning. And I keep going back to this. Jason Craven made a great point. Running the ball masks a lot of deficiencies. There's no question about that. And I really think one of the things we're not, at least I haven't, when I go back to do this, I got to keep reminding myself, and this is not a shot at Kyle McCord. He was not a running threat at all. And Will Howard is a good runner of the football, dude. And he's a big dude. You can just Google Kyle McCord running highlights and then Google Will Howard running highlights. The one video will be longer than the other.
Everybody here, including you, me, and everybody in the chat, had more rushing yards for Ohio State than Kyle McCord last year because Kyle McCord had negative rushing yards. And I know sacks. It's a stupid rule that quarterbacks get dinged for sacks on their rushing yards. The NFL doesn't do it like that. But the fact remains, Kyle McCord had negative rushing yards. 12 starts at quarterback. I've never seen that.
And just wasn't a threat. Look, it's far more difficult to play defense when one of your guys is assigned to the quarterback, or at least has to be knowledgeable about it. You know what I mean? Kyle McCord would drop back, and you'd be throwing an all goes, and he's sitting in the pocket. If it's man covers and it's all goes, Will Howard is taking off, dude. 3rd and 6, he may be able to run for it. And by the way, DeMonte Trainum was a really nice pickup in the transfer portal and a fine Ohioan. He's not Travion Henderson or Quinshon Judkins, man. That's just not a fair comparison. So then you add in those two and Chip Kelly calling plays and the offensive line with a year older and tougher and stronger. There's no way to say that last year's group was better than this year's group. Now, will the gap be big enough to push us over the hump? Who knows? But they will be a better running team this year. I don't see how you could even argue against that. And hopefully the trickle-down effect is the national championship, Dave.
Great stuff, Dan Rubin. We had a nice live audience. Appreciate you guys very much. Appreciate everybody listening to the podcast-only version. Thanks again to Dan. Thanks to all of you. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day.